Welcome to the FAFSA Leadership Lounge, where we discuss various policies impacting Florida's school leaders. I am Michelle White, Executive Director of the Florida Association of School Administrators.
And I'm Jessica Janasiewicz, and I serve as the lobbyist for FAFSA in a number of school districts here in Florida.
So, as we continue to move through the Florida legislative session, in extended session, the budget negotiations continue to unfold here in Tallahassee. On Tuesday, June 3rd, lawmakers reconvened to begin the budget conferencing process. While they've made progress, it was clear that all the issues would not be resolved by Friday, June 6th, which was the original end date for the joint resolution and extended session. As a result, both chambers convened on Thursday, June 5th, to pass House Concurrent Resolution 1635. This will extend the 2025 legislative session until 11:59 p.m. on Wednesday, June 18th. This proposed extension would replace the current session date established by the House Continuing Resolution 1631, which was set to expire, as we mentioned, on the 6th. So, to take effect, 1635 must be adopted by both the House and the Senate, as concurrent resolutions require approval from both chambers, but do not necessitate the governor's signature, so they can extend without the governor's approval. This particular continuing resolution also includes additional bills for consideration during the extended session, which, when we talked before about them extending the session, there was a limited number of bills that could move forward. Now they've added a few and removed a few. So first adding Senate Bill 1906, which is relating to debt reduction, will be added. So will Senate Bill 1908 on the Budget Stabilization Fund and House Bill 7031 relating to the sales tax rate reductions. Now, the 1635 will remove House Bill 7033 on taxation and Senate Bill 110 on rural communities from the agenda, indicating a big shift in legislative priorities. So the adoption of this continuing resolution is essential for the proposed extension and the inclusion of these specific bills in the extended session. Specifically, we talked about Senate Bill 110 being the Senate President's priority on rural renaissance, and the taxation was priority for the speaker. So coming to agreement is always a good thing.
That's exactly right. It means we're making some progress here. So, and that concurrent resolution was voted on favorably by both the chambers on Thursday, June 5th. So now we are officially going to see that extended session through June 18th. So what does all this mean, and where are we with the budget? First and foremost, this means that in addition to the budget-related bills, the chambers are also going to consider a few new policies. These include a policy which directs the legislature to reduce recurring revenue by $2.25 billion, which includes eliminating sales tax on commercial leases and establishing what they have described as, quote, permanent sales tax exemptions targeted toward Florida families. While specific details about that particular proposal were not provided, Senate President Albritton had previously proposed removing sales tax on clothing and footwear items priced under $75. Of the $2.25 billion total, $750 million would be allocated to the state's primary budget reserve, and $250 million annually would be dedicated to paying down state debt, a key priority for Governor DeSantis. Legislative leaders also revealed plans to place a constitutional amendment on the November 2026 ballot that would increase the cap on the state's budget stabilization fund. Currently, it is limited to 10% of net general revenue, and the proposed amendment would raise the cap to 25% and mandate annual contributions of $750 million until the new threshold is met. Each of these policies will be considered and voted on by the chamber. The proposed constitutional amendment, if passed, would then be placed on the ballot for voters to approve or reject in November of 2026. In our education world, as of 3 p.m. on Thursday, June 5th, the Joint Pre-K-12 Education Budget Committee has met 3 times, with each chamber presenting offers for the other's consideration. Notably, both chambers have made significant progress on the issue of weighted add-on FTE for the funding for the AP, IB, and those other academic acceleration programs. The House has proposed creating a separate categorical to fund these bonuses and would maintain the current funding levels. It looks like they're really coming together on this, so it may appear in a different way as a categorical instead of where it is currently in statute, a formula essentially that they use. But this certainly represents a major win, and it highlights the impact of the advocacy efforts in Tallahassee with our members and teachers and superintendents and other parents and other stakeholders all making their voices heard on this issue. It really is important.
Absolutely.
During their most recent meeting on Thursday, June 5th, Chairman Burgess indicated that leadership had authorized committees to continue meeting past the original 2 p.m. deadline when issues were supposed to bump to the big chairs, which is what we call them here in Tallahassee. Those are our two big appropriations chairs, Senator Hooper and Representative McClure. So that was supposed to happen at 2 p.m. It can now go till 5, and they did say that the committee plans to meet. So as we record this, we are waiting to see if in fact they will meet again this evening.
And hopefully get some answers very soon, especially as we head into the FAFSA Discover 25 conference and provide up to the moment updates there. Also happening last week, the State Board of Education unanimously approved a new Commissioner of Education, Stassi. He is currently the Governor's Deputy Chief of Staff. And upon accepting the role, he, of course, in his remarks, committed to advancing the state's education agenda, including reforms focused on parental rights and school choice that have drawn national attention. He is the third person to hold the position under Governor DeSantis, succeeding Manny Diaz Jr., who, of course, is a former state senator and now would move to be president of the University of West Florida. DeSantis's first commissioner, Richard Corcoran, who also spoke at the confirmation meeting, he is the former Republican House Speaker for the state and now leads the new College of Florida. So, also at the state board meeting, there were 5 rules approved, one of which relates to Family Empowerment Scholarship Program. This rule will require school districts or charter schools to complete a specific form that will help the department better track where and when students are enrolled in which schools, whether they're private, charter, or public schools, traditional public schools.
And I expect we'll probably see more in that rule development area now that we have seen the vast majority of the education policies that were passed this year signed into law by the governor. So I imagine the state board will be busy with rule development very soon.
Very soon. We'll move to 2025 rulemaking really soon, instead of just focusing on 2024 legislation.
That's right. And also at the department level, we were all excited to see that the ELA instructional materials list was released by the department this week. This is later than we typically get the list, so I know our school districts were anxiously awaiting seeing what was on the state's approved list so they could start making those purchasing decisions to try to have those materials in the hands of teachers and kids before school starts. So that was certainly exciting. So what comes next? Lawmakers are expected to continue to meet over the weekend with the goal of finalizing the budget in time that we can hopefully share updates of what we have at the conference on Monday. If they are able to wrap up their negotiations the weekend of June 7th and 8th, the budget could begin its required 72-hour cooling off period during the week of June 9th. Once that 72-hour period concludes, the legislature could return to Tallahassee for a final vote, and obviously that would be well in advance of the date that they have to finish by. So we are hopeful that for those folks that attend conference, we'll have some real-time updates about what the final budget looks like.
Yeah, of course. And then once the budget is approved, it goes to the governor for his review, final signatures, potential vetoes on any specific line items that he may choose. So there may be some changes in the future, and of course we'll continue to share out about that. Thank you so very much for listening and being a part of the FAFSA Leadership Lounge. We cannot share this word enough with all administrators across the state of what's happening in Florida education without your help in also sharing this podcast. So please make sure to share with your colleagues, go to FASA.net and check out our advocacy section for more updates and certainly our social media, but stay tuned for more.
Thank you for listening to the Leadership Lounge podcast presented by the Florida Association of School Administrators. Today's podcast was hosted by Michelle White and Jessica Janasiewicz. The podcast is produced by Jeff Willoughby. Special thanks to musical director David Higgins. Make sure to subscribe to the Leadership Lounge podcast wherever you find your favorite podcasts. New episodes are released each Monday. For show topic suggestions, questions, or comments, please email communications@fasa.net. We hope you enjoyed the show.